So, a very warm welcome to the CIVIS European University Alliance seminar series, Transdisciplinarity in Education and Research. Today, I've got the enormous pleasure of welcoming Jon Turner from the University of Edinburgh to talk with us about curriculum transformation. Jon is not only a colleague of mine, he's also a very good friend, and it's a super great pleasure for me to welcome him to our seminar series. I've actually already a sneak preview of this talk, and I know how good it is. But I'm looking forward to hearing it again, and I'm sure we all are, particularly with all the work we're doing, trying to engage in curriculum transformation ourselves within the CIVIS Alliance. We've got a lot to learn from Jon. And Jon, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my own camera off. And the reason that for that is just so that we don't block too much of the screen with both of our visuals. I'm in the background. If I will pop up instantly if there's a technical problem. A warm welcome to the CIVIS European University Alliance. Welcome, Jon.
Thanks very much, Ali. So I will now share my screen. And Ali, hopefully that means you're able to see that okay.
Your screen looks absolutely lovely. There is a little bit of a... That's perfect now. Good.
Yep. Okie dokie. Right, so what I'm going to do Ali, just jump in if something goes wrong partway through it and let me know.
I will do.
So thank you ever so much for the invitation to join you. Really nice to be here. As Ali says, we were PhD peers in the School of Geosciences here in Edinburgh a long time ago. And since that time, I've been involved as a research fellow in geosciences and then running a master's program there. But very early in my career, I got involved in first supporting doctoral education. And then I set up the Institute for Academic Development here at the University of Edinburgh, which is the equivalent of our Learning and Teaching Centre. And when the University of Edinburgh got started on a major institutional curriculum transformation program, they asked me to get involved. And then a couple of years ago, I was asked to take over as the lead for this curriculum transformation program. So what I'm going to do in the next 20 to 30 minutes is give a little bit of an introduction to the curriculum transformation program that we've got underway at the moment, talk a little bit about its purpose, its scope, its ambition, and then I'll talk in much more detail about our proposed undergraduate curriculum framework. And particularly, I'll try and focus in on where we see opportunities for interdisciplinary learning and talk a little bit about some of the approaches that we're taking to enable and support this. And I'll finish with a couple of potential discussion points where I'd be really interested in hearing about your experiences and approaches, as well as answering any questions that you've got. So hopefully that's now moved me on to the second slide and you're seeing that okay.
It has.
Thank you, Ali. A little bit of background to curriculum transformation here at Edinburgh. Its central ambition is to maximise the positive impact of an Edinburgh University education. We're wanting to build on what's already very good and make sure we're doing all we can to prepare students for what is an increasingly dynamic and changing and challenging world beyond graduation. At the same time, we want to use curriculum transformation to improve the experience for students and for staff, and also look to see how we can make it easier for the university to adapt and be nimble in developing and adapting its educational portfolio and sets of programs. The scope is very broad. We're looking at all areas of the undergraduate curriculum, the bachelor's curriculum, and all areas of the taught postgraduate curriculum, the master's curriculum. We're looking at the structure of the curriculum. We're looking at approaches to teaching, learning, and assessment. And we're looking at how teaching, learning, and assessment is supported in the infrastructure, physical, virtual people that sits underneath it. And it's a very long-term project for the university, likely to run for at least 5 more years, maybe more like 10 years by the time things go through. And we're at an important transition point just now. We spent 2021 and 2022 doing a lot of scoping and background work on what we wanted to achieve through curriculum transformation. Then in 2023, we started to develop proposals for what might change. And these have been discussed and tested and iterated with audiences within and beyond the university. And we're in a period now where those proposals are gradually being considered and approved by University Senate and University Court. So this is at a point now where we're moving into a period of development, testing, and piloting that's likely to last at least another couple, 2 or 3 academic years before the new curriculum framework is fully rolled out. And at the moment, this is also happening at a time where for higher education across the world, and particularly in the UK, we have a lot of financial issues and challenges just now, which are making it an interesting time to be leading a university level change program. So I spoke about this initial scoping phase. So what we wanted to do during that period was to try and draw together a range of different sources of insight from across the university and beyond. And that meant that we set up work streams and groups that involved staff and students from the university and beyond. We commissioned colleagues within Edinburgh to write briefing papers on particular topics. We took a look at a lot of the insight that we'd got around current practice and priorities across the university, including a focus on our academic disciplines and schools that have been investing in curriculum reform in recent years. And we also use this period to work with many groups within and beyond the university to develop a shared vision for what we want the consequences and experience of the curriculum to be for students, graduates, and applicants. And this is the Edinburgh Student Vision that I'll speak about in a moment. And the idea here was that during that scoping phase, we developed the Edinburgh Student Vision in terms of what we wanted to achieve. We then use that to start looking at in more detail and then stress testing different options for a new curriculum architecture, a curriculum framework. And that'll be the focus of the bulk of my talk. So the Edinburgh Student Vision is our attempt to define a shared vision for what we want the consequences of curriculum and curriculum transformation to be. It was developed on the basis of a series of conversations with many different groups of staff and students, where we asked really very open questions about what they see as the priorities for the curriculum. And infographics that summarize the results of some of these meetings are included on this slide. We then combined the results of these conversations with the perspectives and insights we were gathering from the briefing papers I mentioned, the work streams and groups that I spoke about, and other consultations and conversations with internal and external stakeholders. And we pulled all of that information together to generate a first draft of the Edinburgh Student Vision at a one-day symposium where we did a lot of co-creation work on the first draft of the Student Vision at that meeting. Since then, the Edinburgh Student Vision has become a key reference point for us in the development of our curriculum frameworks. It's had time to mature. We did some market sensitivity work last year with large numbers of current students and potential applicants. And we also did work in the autumn last year to refine and test the language and framing of the Student Vision. And so the vision has gone through 2 or 3 iterations, but actually quite modest changes to the original version that we created in that symposium that I mentioned. And what you see on this slide is the version of the Student Vision that was approved by our University Senate in December last year. And the University Senate is the ultimate decision-making body within the university, built around the professoriate of the institution. So the Student Vision has 4 high-level objectives that are focused on creating long-lasting benefits for students and graduates. So that includes a continued focus on the importance of disciplinary depth and expertise at the heart of our degree programs, that students achieve something really substantive in a particular area of scholarly endeavour. But that sits alongside support for the development of students as learners, so they're ready to thrive in a changing world beyond graduation. And that they're able to translate what they've learned and their experience to future success, including employment, and be valued collaborators working across different contexts. And those objectives are then accompanied by a set of key components for the development of a curriculum that will support the achievement of these objectives. So this is really where it starts to get quite important in terms of this is the proposition of what we need to think about when we're designing degree programs for the future. So that includes a focus on supporting the development of self-directed. Ali, are you still there?
I sure am.
Lovely. It's all right. My little Zoom bar disappeared for a moment. So in looking at these key components to support the achievement of the objectives, we're looking at a focus on supporting the development of self-directed, curious and confident learners. including experiential, cross-disciplinary and cross-cultural learning alongside disciplinary depth, identity and expertise, to ensure we've got curricula that develop high levels of digital and data literacy, that have a clear focus on integrity and are values driven, and that also build opportunities for understanding and engagement with global challenges. So that's the student vision, which is the kind of reference point for a lot of what we're doing with curriculum transformation. But at the heart of the programme is the development of a new curriculum framework. So this has been developed in response to the Edinburgh Student Vision, alongside other insights and perspectives that we gathered during the scoping phase, and that included discussions with external organisation and stakeholders, including recent alumni, employers, for example, and also looking at what else is happening in higher education internationally. And the proposed framework comprises two elements: programme archetypes that determine the structure of the curriculum, and curriculum design principles that guide the use of the archetypes and other aspects of teaching, learning and assessment. And propositions for the curriculum framework, one for undergraduate, one for taught postgraduate, have been discussed within the university and are being tested, validated and refined at the moment. We had initial approval for the taught postgraduate framework last May, and we're working towards hoping to get approval for the undergraduate one later this academic year. And it's the undergraduate framework that I'll speak about mostly today. So I mentioned the two elements of the curriculum frameworks. The idea behind the curriculum design principles, and these operate across PGT and UG, is to support and to prompt thinking when colleagues are making decisions. Decisions around curriculum design, approaches to teaching and assessment, and also thinking about how we support the curriculum and teaching in university. We're developing guidance and resources that are tailored to specific tasks and roles. So, for example, for staff designing new programmes, for colleagues who provide advice to students on course choices. And the guidance speak and the design principles speak directly to the student vision. So thinking about how our curriculum can help students to be future ready and able to learn across boundaries. I think it's also worth just noting the intentionality of the design principles. We're really clear that one of the principles here is that we want the principles to be used in a way that gives students and staff agency and consequence. So they're intended to be enabling staff to be creative and respond to their discipline and context. So using their academic and professional judgment on what makes sense and what's appropriate in their particular discipline and context. And that includes thinking about the requirements of external accreditation. Accreditation. Thought I'd just put a couple of examples of how the design principles are going to be supported. We have new programme and course design resources that are being developed and expanded through curriculum transformation. These provide an evidence base for the factors we'd like colleagues to consider in response to curriculum transformation. So that includes things like introduced a greater focus on experiential learning, thinking about opportunities for programme level learning and assessment, thinking about approaches to assessment and feedback that promote staff and student well-being. And alongside this evidence base, we're providing examples from Edinburgh and elsewhere on how these themes can and have been addressed within different contexts. We're also introducing a new skills for success framework. This is a replacement for the university graduate attributes framework. I'm not sure how this applies in Sweden, but in the UK, most universities will have a graduate attributes framework that sets out the skills that we're then developing, the skills that cross all disciplines and all areas that we're developing alongside the learning outcomes that are specific to a degree programme. So what we do in this Skills for Success framework is highlight the range of skills and attributes that students will develop during their time at Edinburgh. And that includes skills that need to be very much embedded within the academic curriculum, skills that can be developed or enhanced through taking particular approaches to teaching and assessment, and skills that are really drawing on the diversity of the wider student academic and experience. So helping students to see those connections. And in using the skills framework, our focus will be on the intentional and explicit embedding of skills development within courses and the academic experience, and using a consistent approach when talking about this, when designing credit-bearing courses, co-curricular and extracurricular learning opportunities. Adopting an approach that surfaces and makes explicit the skills to students and teachers, and that helps students to understand and articulate their skills development in a way that reflects the unique starting point and end point that every student has. And what we're wanting to have here is a flexible framework with scope for different disciplines, together with interdisciplinary program and course teams, and particularly the students themselves, to tailor the framework to their particular context and priorities. And that includes the inclusion of a 10th skill area that's designed to encourage students to focus on specific areas and skills that are important to them. Okay. The curriculum framework also includes a set of undergraduate degree program archetypes. And what we're trying to do with these archetypes is to provide just enough consistency in structure to enable the better sharing of courses, to support the curriculum design principles, and also to understand the requirements for the supporting infrastructure in terms of our university regulations, in terms of that pedagogic support that I mentioned earlier on, including and also some of our university administrative processes and systems. But we need those archetypes to be developed in a way that they can be responsive to things like external accreditation for degree programs, for example, where we have programs that are approved by the Royal Academy of Engineers, for example, or by our National Health Service, also our General Medical Council for doctors. That the framework and the archetypes can also support appropriate and achievable levels of choice and flexibility for students, and that are also flexible enough to meet the expectations and requirements of different disciplines and degree programs. We need them to be a framework upon which you can construct a lot of diversity and variability in function and form that responds to the diversity of the degree programs we have in the university. And we're partway through a period of in-depth engagement with our academic schools to explore the potential impact of introducing 4 archetypes at undergraduate level. And so what you have here is, just for convenience, the coloured squares represent 20 credits. And in Scotland, you do 120 credits in each year of undergraduate studies. That's the first year, second year, third year, fourth year. The blue colours are the minimum and maximum required credit weighting as a current proposition. The grey colours are areas that are a bit more flexible, and we've highlighted things called challenge courses that I'll come to later on as well. And our academic schools would decide on whether their programs or their programme should run as a single, double or combined honours programme. All of these archetypes provide a disciplinary content architecture and flow to support transfer pathways, for example. They include space for challenge courses that I'll talk about in a moment, and space to include and strengthen provision around experiential learning, space for enrichment and learning beyond the core discipline. And I'll talk about this more in a moment. And if we get the archetypes right, they should give us with a more consistent structure for our degree programs, giving opportunities for more curated and guided student course choice within the main discipline. And that's been an important topic of conversation across the university, that desire for more curation of student course choice and pathways through degree programs, and also support transfer pathways between different degrees and enable this greater focus on program level learning and assessment. So I mentioned challenge courses, and the introduction of a university portfolio of elective challenge courses is an important part of the proposition of curriculum transformation. So these are courses that are being designed for mixed audiences of students from different disciplines across the whole of the university. So these are courses that are designed from the very beginning to be open to students from all of the disciplines that we offer in the university. And each of the challenge courses focuses in on globally significant themes that are aligned to our institutional research priorities. And these are interdisciplinary in character, and we have staff from different disciplines coming together to teach courses that are offered as outside electives to our first and second year undergraduate students. And our ambition is to end up with a portfolio of more than 7,000 challenge course places available each year. And that would be enough to enable all of our students to take at least one challenge course during their degree programme. We have 5 pilot challenge courses running at the moment, and these are displayed on the screen here. And the course teams that are behind these pilot courses are using this phase to help us understand obstacles and barriers to the delivery of the courses designed around the challenge course criteria. And they're also working on the potential changes to course design that would allow for the courses to be scaled up. We want to be in a position where our students have a reasonable chance of getting onto the challenge course that they want to study. So we are aiming to run these with significant enrolment numbers. So for example, this year we have just over 640 places available across these 5 challenge courses. We'll be looking to have the capacity of each individual challenge course somewhere between 300 and 1,000 within that overall portfolio, offering 7,000 places. And we have further courses under development for launch next year. And that includes a course called Living in the Anthropocene, which is a collaboration between all of our schools in the College of Science and Engineering. A second key element for us that, again, I think is very important from that interdisciplinary perspective is the desire to strengthen our focus on experiential learning, both within disciplines and across disciplines as part of curriculum transformation. Now, this is already an important and core element of many of our degree programs. So what we're trying to do here is not just introduce it, but to further build on it and see it embedded within all of our degree programs. Particularly as a route to support students in building their disciplinary identity, but also in helping them to develop skills and experience that's essential for their future success, including opportunities for real-world learning and the application of the knowledge and skills to real problems and in issues that they've developed through their degree program. We're using a very broad definition for experiential learning. One of the things that we stumble across occasionally in the university is people having a very narrow view of experiential learning. So that means every student has to do a work placement, for example. That's not what we're proposing. Workplaces are one example of experiential learning, but there are lots of others. So the definition we have here is focused on learning that is being designed to support learning by doing and supporting the reflection on that learning, and a focus on learning from the process as well as the outcome of the learning. There are 2 elements to the proposition around experiential learning that we'll be taking to our Senate. First is that all degree programs would include an assessed element of experiential learning, either through a course, a project, or both, that counts towards the award of the degree in the final or penultimate year. And that would also then be accompanied by requiring all programs to include a formative experience of reflection as an approach to assessment in the first or second year of study. And what we're doing at the moment is working with 4 of our 21 academic schools to explore the impact of this proposal for all of the degree programs they offer. So this includes looking at programs where experiential learning is already a core element, like, for example, geology or fine art, but where you could potentially make some changes to assessment and approaches to learning to bring more benefits out of that experiential learning opportunities. But also look at areas where it's less familiar. So things like art history or politics, as well as looking at programs that are subject to external accreditation. And the focus of this work is looking at where we can adapt learning outcomes, where we can introduce new or alternative teaching and learning activities, and we can support approaches to teaching, learning and assessment that maximize the value and experience of experiential learning. So this encompasses a very wide range of practices and course structures, and also includes opportunities for interdisciplinary experiential learning within degree programs, including some areas where we have collaboration between different subject areas. And the second element is to design a series of cross-university experiential learning courses as electives for students in their penultimate or final year. And all of these have a strong interdisciplinary dimension to them. So that includes opportunities for placements. It includes team-based externally set challenges. That's the SASHA course that's mentioned on this slide. But we're also looking at a range of other potential courses, including opportunities for collaborative ethnography, consultancy style learning. That's the outreach course that we currently run in geosciences, and then an AI-enabled scenario-based learning. That's the bridge example that's mentioned on here. So all of these are at proof of concept stage. Some, SASHA, for example, operate at the moment as an extracurricular program, or others are operating like the outreach course in a restricted set of disciplines. And we're planning to scale up the ones that are already running, but pilot at least one of the new ones in academic year 25-26. Turning now finally to the concept of enrichment elements. One of the distinctive characteristics of undergraduate education in Scotland compared to the rest of the UK is we have a 4-year undergraduate programme rather than 3 years. And a key strength of that is the opportunity for students to take courses outside their home discipline. And what we're wanting to do through the inclusion of optional enrichment elements is give students the opportunity to use some of that outside elective space to consolidate and build learning across 80 credits of linked courses that run alongside and are complementary to their main disciplinary program. And we're looking at two types of enrichment element, defined and guided. In a defined enrichment element, students would take a specified set of courses in order. And that sort of structure gives us an opportunity to provide learning and skills. For example, in a language or in data skills, enterprise and entrepreneurship sitting alongside the main program. The concept of the guided enrichment elements is to offer something a little bit more flexible. That's intended particularly to help students to dig in deeper into interdisciplinary themes that are complementary to the main degree program. So here you would be able to use something like a challenge course as the foundation for that interdisciplinary theme, and then identify further outside courses or courses within your own degree program that give you an opportunity to look further into that interdisciplinary topic and theme. So that would be things like climate emergency and sustainability. Okay, so just to finish off now, in terms of some potential discussion points, these are some of the issues that we've been focusing on around interdisciplinary learning as a key priority for curriculum transformation. First is thinking about the role of the curriculum framework in creating space in the curriculum, both within the core compulsory curriculum and also in the elective spaces that we have in the curriculum. What we're trying to do is create a flexible framework that can be tailored to the requirements of different disciplines and programs, whilst also providing opportunities for students to explore using an element of flexible and elective space. A focus on course design and pedagogy, so including the value of interdisciplinary learning when in speaking to that student vision and the skills for success framework. Interdisciplinary learning provides a really powerful route to support a lot of those skills and aspects of the student vision in terms of preparing students for life beyond graduation. The importance of thinking really carefully about the scaffolding of learning for students and preparing students for interdisciplinary learning. So that's including thinking about what approach or experience or exposure to interdisciplinary learning is appropriate for our first year students, and then how that approach can flex and develop as students grow and mature as learners, potentially with a kind of stronger central element of disciplinary expertise and confidence as they go through their study period. It also includes, as I think came through in that experiential learning example, the importance of providing students with low stakes exposure to what might for them be unfamiliar approaches to learning or assessment before we use them for high stakes assessment that might count towards their degree and their degree award. And then finally, my feeling is that sometimes the educational challenges of interdisciplinary in terms of the pedagogic educational challenges are overstated or at least misapplied to what actually turn out to be very operational, organizational and logistical challenges. And these can sometimes be the biggest barrier to change when we're operating in an organization like a university that was largely created on the basis of a discipline-based organizational structure. So that can lead to some significant logistical challenges around things like timetabling, flows of resources, coordination and management, particularly when you're wanting to embed change and operate beyond that initial group of enthusiasts. So these are just some of the topics that we're looking at very carefully at the moment, and I'd be really interested to hear your views on those, but also happy to answer other questions as well. So I hope that overview's been of interest and connects to some of the themes and topics you're interested in. I'm just going to finish with a link to our Teaching Matters blog site. And that's a place where university staff and students share their experience and reflectors on teaching, including interdisciplinary learning and curriculum transformation. And this has been and continues to be a hugely valuable resource for curriculum transformation, including some of those course and program design resources I mentioned. Back to you, Ali.
Thank you so much, John, for that really, really insightful presentation. Having listened to it now, for me, I've listened to it a second time and I've learned even more for a lot of the challenges that we're facing within the CIVIS Alliance. Thank you for taking the time.